Y'all gonna have to give me a minute to get my breath because I am so in awe and so excited. This is a schoolgirl moment for me. Somebody asked me why I was wearing purple. I said, because I was getting ready to sit with royalty. So let me say, first of all, thank you to all of you for being here. And thank you to Pfizer for giving us an opportunity to have this very important discussion. And thank you to Black Enterprise for pulling us together in this moment of sisterhood and for allowing us to celebrate your 50th anniversary with you. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And then to you, thank you so much for the opportunity to have this very important discussion with you about a topic that we know you will know so well. You have just been iconic in so many ways. A picture of Black excellence, a model for Black women. It is just an incredible pleasure to be here with you and to ask you questions. So I'm gonna try and reflect some of the things I know that you all would ask and start by asking just a basic question. With all that has gone on and all that is going on in the entertainment industry, what's it been like to be a Black woman in this industry?
I have been enjoying an amazing journey. As many of you know, I was born in Houston, Texas, reared in Houston, Texas, during a time of legal segregation in our country. At age 13, my mother took me to live in Mexico City. It was my exposure to international community and to the largesse of the world and people. I'm a graduate of Howard University. And upon graduation, I went home for the summer, and in the fall, I went to New York. It wasn't my first time in New York. I went to New York after my sophomore year to intern at the Negro Ensemble Theater Company. So I'm giving you all of this kind of a preface, because when I graduated and went to New York to really establish a career, I mean, it was quite a journey, and one that I would not have missed. There were highs and there were lows, but I never looked at the highs and lows as being associated with my ethnicity. My mother had given us something as children that stayed with us. My mother is a poet, a writer, and she would write aphorisms and have us repeat them. And one of them was, "The universe bears no ill to me, I bear no ill to it." And she'd say, "Now say that." Now imagine yourself 7 years old. "The universe bears no ill to me, I bear no ill to it," not understanding a word I was saying. But she always knew that a lot of the things she gave us were beyond our comprehension at the time, but she gave them to us anyway. It's like planting a seed in young earth.
So you mentioned your mother. She was a Pulitzer Prize nominated poet. She was a real hidden figure, if you would, at the Johnson Space Flight Center. These were all kind of huge opportunities for you to see someone in action. What other lessons did she pass down to you?
Gee whiz, I mean, it was like, as a human being, you have unlimited potential, but it's up to me to realize that about myself, and it's up to me to work towards that. And if I don't experience it, then I have to look to myself to see what effort did I or did I not make towards that end. To sit around and wait for some law to be passed up on Capitol Hill, I mean, these people barely know which door to walk into, it seems, these days. So we can't wait for them to come together and pass legislation for us and young people to realize ourselves, that that's not going to happen. So we have to do this. This is something we have to do. And also, I grew up in a community in Houston, Texas, at a time that was a community. I had teachers who had taught my father. So, you know, when you're in a classroom like that, you better behave. Yeah, you gotta behave. They expected the best of us. They said, you're going to learn this. Not only are you going to learn it, you're going to excel in it, because I know that you can, and I know where you live. Makes a difference, right? Makes a difference. So I grew up in a community of people who worked. And watching that as a young person, I embraced work and work effort and work ethic. I had teachers who had taught for 35 years who went to school every summer after having taught for 35 years, because the lesson was you never stop learning.
So let's talk about these expectations for a second. It sounds like expectations of us are high. And I think many women in the audience sitting here today can identify with the idea of feeling like they're wearing an S on their chest, an S, Superwoman, on our chest 24/7, 365.
Yes.
And, right, so, and of course, we have to talk about Claire Huxtable for a second in the Superwoman context.
Okay.
Okay, because she was kind of the superwoman that we got to see. A successful lawyer, amazing mother and wife, smart, beautiful, all of that, all the time, every day.
That's right.
So, in real life, do you think that's true? Can we have it all, do it all, be it all?
I think you can have what you want. You work for it. I think you got to be careful what you ask for. I think it's best not to compartmentalize one's life. My mother didn't do it that way. My grandmother was a teacher. She didn't do it that way. I grew up looking at beautiful women. They were beautiful every day. When I was in school, oh child, my teachers dressed every day. Hair snatched every day. I had one teacher, honestly, I had an English teacher in 9th grade, Mrs. Peoples, I'll never forget her. She wore a shirt dress every day, a beautiful shirt dress every day. That was her mode of dress. And I promise you, the color of her shoes were identical to her dress every day. They didn't walk around in earth shoes. So this was what I was seeing as a child. Well, it's true, they didn't. This is what I was seeing as a young person. So as a young person, I was seeing women who were sharp and who were prepared. You know, being a teacher that's not an easy task. You gotta do those lesson plans every single day. I grew up seeing women like this. So Claire Huxtable wasn't new to me. She was not an invention.
And how do you think that role shaped our perception of a Black woman and of women and ourselves?
So first of all, let me just acknowledge that people really are much more alike than we could ever be different. And given the opportunity, people are willing and wanting to embrace those likenesses. That's been my experience, and that is the goal, the hidden goal in all the work that I do, is to present that through my work. And what I observed with Claire Huxtable was how people appreciated that character. People appreciated seeing an intelligent woman who was celebrated by her husband. Other men in the room? Well, it's right? You know, because it makes a difference when we are coupled with someone who is celebrating our intelligence and our enthusiasm for life. Because what do we want from men whom we love, but their protection. That's all we want. You protect my enthusiasm for life and my intellect, and you can have everything. But it's the truth, right? It's the truth. Someone who protects our intellect and enthusiasm for life gets us and celebrates us. So they loved seeing that relationship. They loved seeing her with her children being natural and honest and disciplinary when necessary. They loved it. And I was sharing with someone this morning. After the first season of The Cosby Show, I was invited to serve as Queen Azalea in the Azalea Festival in North Carolina. The Azalea Festival had gone on for decades, but there had never been an African American queen. And there I was on this float and saw all my people lined up on either side of the street. And it was only then, well, I would not say only then, but that was a first real upfront personal contact understanding of how important the role of Claire Huxtable was to my own people. Because I could see the joy and the pride in their faces. And I knew it had nothing to do with me. It had to do with the work that I had done and what it had given people. That was really great. And then years later, when I was in South Africa with the Presidential Roundtable, there were a number of students who had come from Atlanta. And so many young people and young, beautiful women saying, I went to law school because of Claire Huxtable. And I hear this a lot now. I'm doing such and so because I saw this on television and I knew that I could. And I always felt privileged, blessed and privileged to do that work. But it was when I was actually meeting young people who were saying that I understood how blessed and privileged I really have been. You can know you're blessed and privileged, but now know exactly how blessed and privileged you are. Isn't it great to do work that has meaning for other people? And I think that's what all these ladies do. I think that's what all of you do. That's kind of my assessment. That was how I felt when I came to this gathering some years ago, 3 years ago, and being here. I said, it hasn't changed. It's grown. We are in this room present because we are women who are doing work that is important to other people. God bless you all. Yes.
So, you talk about trailblazing in so many different ways, but trailblazers often kind of see the obstacles, the barriers, the problems, and the issues up close and personal before the rest of us get to see them.
Yeah.
If you think about some of the obstacles, like the ones that kind of really stick on you, or the ones that were the most challenging to overcome, what were those?
Those were ones that I created for myself.
Oh, I'm sorry, please say that again, because that was so deep. That was so deep. Please.
Yeah, the greatest obstacles were the ones that I had created for myself.
Wow.
And once I could own that, I could change it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm going to say how profound that is, because I think that many of us spend a lot of time thinking about what barriers other people put in front of us. And if I can, I want to read a quote of yours and then ask you a question about it.
Okay.
What's in front of you is a whole world of experiences beyond your imagination. Put yourself and your growth and development first. So based on what you just said, what are some of the things that you think are necessary parts of growth and development that we might want to pay attention to?
I think the greatest focus for growth and development is self-knowledge. And I'm not just talking about personal likes and dislikes or personality. Like, who am I really? Who am I? As a young girl, as a little girl, I always felt that was important to know. And then I left it alone. Because, you know, young people are really pretty smart until we dumb down, then we got to get smart again. Yeah, you listen to little kids and the things they say, so profound their observations and their understanding. So intuitive we are as very young people. And then life happens and we kind of forget about it. And hopefully we can come back to it again. So I had to come back to that. Who am I? Who am I really? I think that's paramount. I think development of one's intellect, that is just like, why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you want to stretch yourself? Why wouldn't you want to read something that you hadn't thought to read? Why wouldn't you want to go to see something that you hadn't thought to see? Why wouldn't you take it upon yourself to engage in meeting a group of people whom you never thought to meet before? Why wouldn't you spend time with young people who don't necessarily think like you do, so you could learn a little something? Why wouldn't you do things like that? Why wouldn't you take the time to listen to what your child has to say and really listen? Why wouldn't you do that?
You know, it's interesting because we were talking about learning and reading and kind of books and taking things in. When we think about the journeys that you're mentioning, what journeys are you either on or about to go on that you think are gonna teach you things you don't know or broaden your horizons?
Well, I am about to commence rehearsals for a play that will be presented at the Apollo Theater.
Exciting.
The play is Blue. I appeared in this play 20 years ago when I created the role of Peggy Clark. Lynn Whitfield will play that role now. Yeah, Leslie Uggams will be in this as well.
Wow.
This will be the first time at the Apollo Theater that there has been legitimate theater. Looking forward to that. So that's very exciting to me. And then, lo and behold, I received an invitation to direct Choir Boy at Yale Rep. And I thought, whoa, I'm going to learn something if I go there. Let me go learn something. So I'm going to do that as well. I always ask myself every day, how creative can I be? My children are grown. I don't have to navigate and negotiate space like that anymore. I'm a single woman. I don't have to navigate and negotiate space like that anymore. And it's okay. So I've got all this space now. It's like, okay, how creative can I be? And that question just keeps me going. Because I think, well, I could direct opera. Oh yeah, I could do that. And my mother says to me all the time, you're my writer who never writes. And I think, well, yeah, I could do that. I think about, there's a book that I have held the rights to for a number of years now. I've been working on developing them. I think you could bring this, you could do this now. You know, that might be your first job directing in film. I could do that. I could help Howard University bring the College of Fine Arts back to life. Yeah, I could do that. Yeah. Passion? All right. So my mother attended a school, Brainerd Institute, in Chester, South Carolina, where she was born, a mill town, that was established by the Presbytery after the Civil War for the descendants of freed Africans. There were a number of such schools throughout the South. You may have heard of a few of them. On my mother's graduation day, well, first of all, my great-grandparents, my grandparents, and my mother attended this school.
Oh, wow. What a history.
And on my mother's graduation day, there were 12 all-brick buildings with electricity, steam heat. There was chemistry lab, there was tennis court, there was instruction in arts and sciences. It was classic education that the people on the other side of town convinced the Presbytery, you don't need this school anymore because now we have public education. Enough said, yes? Mm-hmm. Many years passed, the school had fallen into physical disrepair to the point where only one building remained, the one that was directly across the street from the house where my mother was born. My mother called me one day, she said, come here. Okay, my mother lived 5 minutes away. I said, okay, so I went. She said, the Brainerd property has come up for sale, and some people are looking to buy it and put some cheap housing on it, and somebody ought to do something. So somebody did something.
You said I can do that?
I could do that.
Okay.
So I purchased this school, what remained of this school, and I gifted it to my mother's 501c3 organization. Mm-hmm. And my mother set about the task of refurbishing this one remaining building. Meanwhile, the entire community is falling apart and going to seed because all of those jobs that people depended upon in the mills of South Carolina were now taken out to another country. But she thought through education and educational opportunity, this community can be uplifted again. And she strove to do just that. Debbie and her dancers from her school, Debbie Allen Dance Academy, have presented 3 different Dance-Free Day seminars under the auspices of this program called Workshops in Open Fields that my mother developed when she was living in Houston, Texas. It was a grassroots program for education in the arts that was recognized by the National Endowment for the Arts. They announced it as their model program for the entire nation. This is my mother by herself.
I love it.
All right?
I love it.
So she decided to do the same thing in this little town, this small town of Chester. And this year will be the 4th year of our preschool literacy program that is absolutely free. It is administered by volunteered certified teachers for children 3 to 6 years old. They have the time of their lives. It's very small, nobody knows about it. But there's nothing more rewarding than seeing the light in a child's eye when they learn something fresh and new, when they're running around the open field with little magnifying glasses, looking at leaves and looking at things on the trees and chasing bees. And you know that you've given somebody something that will last their whole life because what you've given them is the understanding that they're smart and they can learn. Mm-hmm. That's what I like most.
I love it. So, the combination of the roles that you talked about in the theater, mm-hmm. and oh, by the way, can we give you a round of applause for being the first Black woman to win a Tony?
Well, I wasn't the first Black woman to win a Tony.
Okay.
It was in that category.
It was in that category. Okay.
Yeah, Leslie Uggams was before me.
In that category, yes. Yes.
Diane Carroll was before me.
Was before then.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but still, I think the trailblazer scenario and the fact that we've uplifted one another, I want to take the opportunity to celebrate you on that as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So, in entertainment, there's a lot about roles, whether or not you're right for a role, whether or not you get a role, whether or not you can have a role, whether or not somebody thinks you can have a role, and it's the same for many of us in corporate America.
Yeah.
And marrying that with your comment about, I can do that. There are a lot of times that there are roles available to us, and we're thinking, I can do that, but someone else does not. How, when that happened to you, did you manage that? And, you know, kind of what did you do with that disconnect for you?
I'm not responsible for other people's eyesight or lack of it thereof. So, I can do that.
I can, whether you see that or not.
You know,
I got you.
because you don't see it, then you're not the right person. I'm gonna go over here and find somebody who's the right person.
I love it.
It's important to see yourself where you want to be. You know, without ego and pretense, to absolutely envision where we want to go and what we want to be. Because it doesn't matter what physical type we are. It doesn't matter. None of that matters when you're talking about the universal principle of the power of the mind. This is a universal principle. It has nothing to do with my ethnicity, how I look, or nothing else. This is the truth. As a man thinketh in his heart, so he is. You know?
Another powerful message for all of us that are kind of seeking our right roles. I want to ask you one last question before I open it up to the audience for questions, and that is, we talked a little bit about being superwomen, and so much is built on the backs of Black women. We can do it all, and often are asked to. And we take care of everybody else.
Yeah, we do.
So who takes care of us?
Well, if we don't, nobody does.
Okay.
You know, this was another discussion I was having this morning with a friend. I said, you know, it's so easy for us as women to give ourselves completely to the care of those whom we love. It's so easy for us as women to do this because we are nurturers by nature. And it's so easy for us to put ourselves way back over there somewhere as we deal with everybody else's whatever. And that's understandable and that's okay, but it's not always good. It's not always the best thing to do, and it doesn't always serve the people whom we love best. Because first of all, it doesn't give people an opportunity to know who we are and what we think about and what we aspire to. If we're living with people and they don't know this, then we have to ask ourselves, I would think, what role have I played in them not knowing this? See, my mother made sure that we knew who she was. There was going to be no question about it. I am a creative person. I am your mother. I love you very much. Yes, there will be breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Yes, you will have clean clothes. Yes, you will live in a clean house. But I am a creative person. So you do not call me before 7 o'clock in the morning because I'm writing. You do not touch my papers because they're important to me. You do not disregard the importance of books, and you don't put a glass of water on the piano. Yes, because I am a creative being. And we just look at it and say, okay. Yeah.
Well, I think that's such a powerful message. We teach people how to treat us.
We do.
So I know that, thank you so much for all of that, and I have just enjoyed questions. I could be asking them all day long, but I want to make sure that those of you in the audience that have questions are able to come up and ask them. And let me ask that you be brief with your question so that we can get as many questions in as possible.
I can start. So, thank you so much for being here. I think there's great wisdom in like phoenix moments. So your colors today reminded me of a phoenix. Phoenix, they burn up, they die, and then they're reborn from the ashes.
Yeah.
And so all of us look at you as this beacon of strength and just, we love you. I wondered about one of the things I admire most about you is your personal strides. Can you remember, and if you're comfortable, share a bit about how you rediscovered yourself and healed after your divorce?
Oh, yes. Okay, so divorce is never easy. It's never easy. Even if people are intelligent enough to behave civilly with one another, it still isn't easy. I don't know, somewhere in my life I kind of, well, my divorces were not always civil. But so I developed an ability, an understanding to see myself past a present circumstance. Because you have to get through it, right? You have to get through it. And if you, I'm not denying anything, and I'm not pretending that things aren't happening. It's just that I had to see myself through it, because there were times during divorce when I'd be standing outside under a clear blue sky and couldn't see the sun shining. Now, I mean that literally. That's how difficult it can be. And you know, if you have children, there's that. My parents divorced when I was 6 years old, and it was not easy for them. And it wasn't easy for us. But they had the good common sense and decency to allow us to love them both. And that made a big difference for us. You just have to keep moving, and you must have something to move towards. And pray God, let it not be another relationship 2 months from the divorce. Give yourself a minute. Next question.
Hi, my name is Jasmine. I lead diversity and inclusion for Venmo, a fellow Howard alumna, so thank you for...
Wait, I can't hear you. I can't understand you because it's echo. Can you come here?
Sure.
Because you could understand it, right? But it's like an echo chamber up here.
Here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right.
All right, hello. Is that better? You can hear a lot better.
Yeah, and speak
Awesome.
up just a little.
Definitely. So my name is Jasmine. I lead diversity and inclusion for Venmo, fellow Howard alumna. Thank you so much for all of that you're doing here. My question for you is, you talked about self-knowledge and really getting to know who am I really. Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit about how you found your purpose? I think when we think about self-care and our careers and pathways, oftentimes we're trying to find that purpose and fulfill it. And not to say that your purpose is 100% fulfilled. I'm sure you have a lot more to do, and we're looking forward to that. But I'm just curious to know, in those early days, how did you kind of guide yourself in your purpose with all the other things that were going on?
Yes. Did everyone hear her question? Okay. All right, so early on in my career, as a young budding actress, it was about what you can do, right? And then somewhere in performance, a couple of times it was like a magical moment when my mind was arrested in someplace else, and the most perfect thing unfolded. And I could feel it. And I could feel that the audience had experienced it too. And I kept wondering, how do I get back to that? Well, do I say the line like I said? How did I say that line? You know, years went by before I came to understand this principle of self. And it is not isolated. This principle of self that I'm speaking of is not isolated to me or to any one of us. This principle of self exists in all there is. And I began to understand that if I offered my work to this principle, what I was doing was giving up the idea that I am the doer. And then I experienced a presence within my own self, this principle of self that is the doer of everything that is done. So it doesn't matter whether you're in corporate America or the classroom or your own kitchen or in the garden or on the stage or up in space. When we offer the work that we do, when we offer the efforts that we make to this greater principle, it becomes service. And that's when everything took off for me. That's when I understood my work in a completely different way and would honor it in that way from that moment forth. That the work that I do, when I really perform it with the right understanding, is not isolated to me. It is service.
Thank you.
Hello. Hi, my name is Bianca, and I work with Bank of America in their risk management department. And as I'm standing here looking at you, you exude integrity, positivity, self-love, and respect. How do you keep that energy amongst yourself and spread that towards others, even in the hardest of times, the most stressful of times? How do you keep that sense of self and like your positivity under like the most extreme circumstances?
That's such a good question. Did everyone hear that? This won't be a surprise to you. So, the principle of self, not isolated to me or to you, but existent, self-existent in everything there is. Do you understand? Yeah. Prayer is so important. Prayer and remembrance are so important. I can't control things that happen around me. If I could, the whole lot would be different. There wouldn't be children in cages sleeping under aluminum blankets. I don't know why we're allowing this. But I can place my mind where I want it to be. Choose where you place your mind. That's how.
Hi, my name is Shalia. Thank you for this session today. I want to ask, what does sisterhood mean to you? And what advice would you have for all of us women in the room on the importance of cultivating that amongst each other as we continue to personally evolve and grow?
You know, when women come together and we come together in celebration of each other and ourselves, it's a very powerful moment, isn't it? It's a very powerful. this is sisterhood. Okay, I have a sister. And last night, my sister and I laughed. We carried on up in that room. And she looks at me and says, see, this is the part of you that people don't see. And I just look at her and say, yeah, well. I tell her, you showing all of that. I don't have to show all that. You show all that. Sisterhood is acceptance. Sisterhood is understanding. Sisterhood is compassion. Sisterhood is, I got your back. And sisterhood is also, okay, but I'm going to give it to you straight. Women are the foundation of the world, child. And where the women go, the culture goes. That is in an ancient Indian scripture. Where the women go, the culture goes. So yes, in this time and in every time, it is so good for us to come together as sisters, to acknowledge each other with appreciation and respect. Yes, it is a great thing. It is the greatest thing. And to continue this, because there's something that happens inside each and every one of us individually that vibrates in our individual communities when we return to them, just from being in gatherings like this. It's undeniable. I'm so grateful for my sister. She sets me straight. She makes me mad. I love her so much. Sometimes I want to wring her little neck. We can fight and forget about it, because that's what love is. We love each other and remember. That's what sisterhood is. I'm so thankful for all of you. I thank you for welcoming me. I thank you for welcoming each other. Through our actions, we show the world how to be. Thank you.
So I think you're going to be our last question.
Yes, ma'am. Hi, my name is Jessica Lampkin. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. It's a pleasure to be here. I wanted to ask you a little bit more about the sisterhood aspect and how we can really support each other. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about mentorship and some of the ways that that has played an influential part of your career, of your life, so that we can kind of help support each other and be mentors to other people, and then also seek mentors out for ourselves.
Yes. In my adult life, I didn't have a lot of mentors. I had great teachers in college, yes, but past that point, I didn't have a lot of mentors. I had my mother, and still do, thank God. But then there came a time when there was a very special bond that was formed between me and an actress who was 40 years my senior. And the wonderful thing about that relationship was, it was never, Phylicia, you should do this or you shouldn't do that. It was never that. It was listening to one another, and it was laughter with one another, and it was time spent together that was just reaffirming. Sometimes, you know, we mentor people just by being with them. Just by being, really being with someone. And at other times, sage advice is a good thing to be able to give, if you have that to give. And if you don't, please keep it to yourself. There's enough misinformation floating around as it is. Don't add to it. But you know what? Always trust your own self. This is our really big thing as women. When I look at the women of power, the women of distinction, there's something I see in common with all these women, that is a belief in one's self, a trust of one's own self. You should have that. I think you do. Yeah? Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. So our time has come to an end, and I know everybody is still, I know. I am so sad.
I'll take one more question.
Okay.
All right.
Hi, my name is Sherry, and I work for Toyota North America. My question for you is, we talk a lot about superpowers and women's superpowers. I want to know, what do you consider your greatest superpower?
Okay.
Faith.
Wow. What an important note to end on. This has been an incredible opportunity for us all. I know I speak for each and every one of you. We cannot thank you enough for spending time with us today, but also what you do every day. Bringing your spirit to the world and for sharing it with us. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Standing
Thank you all.
ovation.
Thank you. Thank you.
You are amazing.
Thank you all.
You are wonderful. Thank you so much.
It's
I
my
cannot-
pleasure. Come.
You good?
What an insightful conversation, right? I don't know about you all, but I know I'm gonna be pondering the obstacles I put in my own way for like at least a week. Let's give another round of applause to Dr. Freda Lewis-Hall and Ms. Phylicia Rashad. And please give Pfizer another round of applause. If you haven't stopped by our Power Showcase, you are missing out. Our sponsors have really put together some amazing activations for you. So be sure to stop by the following things. Join Dr. Freda Lewis-Hall and Dr. Joy Hardin Bradford at the Pfizer Wellness Spa as they discuss anxiety and the imposter syndrome. The conversation begins at 4:30. Visit the Macy's booth for a complimentary facial and makeover. Get tips and touch-ups from Camille Rose and Cream of Nature at the Walmart booth. And there's even more. We're so glad you've been enjoying the summit and have been sharing on social. But how much are you tweeting using the hashtag BEWPS? The more you use the hashtag, the more likely you are to win. And trust me, you're gonna wanna win. In case you haven't noticed, we also have an Instagram page dedicated to women of power like you. Follow us on IG at Black Enterprise Women. As you make plans to power up on your girls' night out tonight, One Oak is providing complimentary admission with your Women of Power Summit badge. So if you want to turn up at the club tonight, get there before 1 a.m. and it's free. Finally, ladies, please, in our sessions, we've been full this morning. Please don't hold seats. The idea is for us to make space for everyone and for you to get to know somebody new. So let's make this a good experience for everyone. And on that note, the banquet staff needs to clean the room. So please be kind enough to start making your way. Enjoy the afternoon sessions and enjoy the rest of your day.